Hello and welcome to IADT's project day for Design for Film. My name is Paul McDonald and I'm going to be doing the character sculpting project day. So basically throughout the hour, throughout the week, I'm going to go through how I want to use to do a sculpt. Whether that could be anything from an image of your face, an image of a friend, a family member, something like this, which is a character. That you could design it, or you could do a caricature of yourself. What would be lovely when you actually do your shots of it, do some side views, do some frontal views, show us the character the whole way around. Now, you could use reference like this, and you can see from it that this is a skull. Now, don't worry about the measurements or anything like that. But I think generally the size we'd be looking for would be around the 50mm mark, 50mm ball. Now, I'm just doing this to show you that even with complicated reference, you can see that it's gridded out, and you can see that there's a circle for the cranium. There's a circle in front for the jaw and the nose area. It doesn't have to be complicated like this. It could be very, very simple. But all I'm trying to do is get you to see that you could work with simple shapes, simple balls, and bring that all together to create a character of your choosing. Now, what I've done here, and you might want to do this, you don't have to do this, this could help. I've put my reference onto a piece of cardboard, that's a mounting board. And I've put the grid lines on it, and you can see that I have a front and I have a left. I've put a front, a left hand side, and I have a right hand side. I've put them on both sides of that card. And what I can do then is that I can separate them, put them together, so I have a template now. Now, you don't have to do this, lads, but I think it's useful. Like, you can see it there, the one that I have, the one that I have shown up on screen. That skull is from that. Now, that's about 75mm. I'm not looking for 75mm off ye. But you can see the roundness of what I'm saying with that ball around that shape there. And around here, another ball, smaller ball. You don't have to, again, it's not a skull I'm necessarily looking for, but if you wanted to sculpt something like that, please do. But you can see on that, it's just breaking shapes down to its simplest form. So if you could do that, have a look at whether it's a drawing or whether it is you're actually looking at an image of yourself or of a family member. Break it down into its simplest form and shape. Now, you'll see here that when I've created a template, so what I can do is put the skull in, and what I've done is I've built up my clay so that the face actually fits within the template. So it might be a simple trick that you want to use. These are just tidbits of advice. You can see that I'm doing the halfway line, and you'll see then me putting the section for the back and the front. So ultimately I will have a side profile, and I can create a template for the side profile, but also the back of the head. Very useful thing to be able to do. Now, again, I'm not expecting we're not all Michelangelos or maybe not fantastic sculptors, but have a go with this, lads. Now, a skull is quite complicated to do, but if you wish and attempt to do it, you are more than welcome to do it, and I would love to see what your skulls would be like. Now, if you want, there's a 6-hour workshop that is up on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. So you could go to that if you wished to try that if you want. But again, I'm not really looking for that a hyper realistic skull look. If you can achieve that, brilliant. These are just tidbits and tools, but and you can see that I've done the frontal side profile and how it fits together. So you could use that as a helpful technique, or maybe that's too far. All we really need to start here is that we need to have a reference. So the reference could be out of a book. The reference could be you. The reference could be your family, or literally, as I show you here, the reference could be a skull. It'd be fun. Like you can see around me, I quite like doing fantastical creatures, but what I also like to do is create an element of realism. So to start, once you've established your reference, and once you have something that you know that you can work off, tinfoil. So simple tinfoil. You could I'm not looking for anything complicated, and the tinfoil we can mash, we can squish, and mash it into a ball. No, literally, I'm mashing that into a ball. It's very, very simple. So that's what I would suggest that you do. Obviously, if you're using wet clay, you'll have to keep it all together or it'll dry out. What I'm actually using here is I'll be using Sculpey, and I can bake it, and the tinfoil will stay inside it, so it won't melt. You could use Plasticine, you could use Playdough, you could use Fimo, you could use even make your own dough. There's a recipe up there when you were invited in. So you could use that, and I've got loads of good results out of literally playing with dough. But you can see I've tried to create a ball shape, and the ball shape I would be going for would roughly be about 50 mil, 50, 75 mil. We're in that bracket. If we go too big, if we go bigger than that, the problem is that it gets so big that it'll take so much time as well. But it's something that size, we can spend a fair bit of time on it, and within an hour we should be able to get a character out. So I'm going to use some simple tools. Now, you might not have a lot of tools. What I'm trying to do here is literally get in the socket of the eye, and you can see that just the bridge of the nose is forming there. So that's where I like to start. I always like to start with the eye socket, and that's me just pushing in. I'm not. Am I sculpting yet? Well, I am. But what I'm trying to do is block this out, get the shapes that I'm looking for out into the tin foil. You could put Plasticine onto the tin foil if you wished. That's not a problem. As I said, if you're using wet clay, you might want to remain that in the block. And a word of warning: do not leave the wet clay long before you've taken a photograph. As I said at the very beginning, take a photograph of it 3/4 frontal, side view. Give us a video of it, and what would be lovely is show us the size, show us it like in your hand. That would be lovely to be able to see that. Now, what I like to use is marbles. I like to create the eyes using some other form. I don't like using, and this is an example here, that I've sort of skipped on ahead with this demo, and you can see more of a shape being in. I have the bridge of the nose, I have a lip detail, a little bit of a hair detail, but I like using the marbles, and I push the marbles in to those sockets that I've created, just with a little bit of, well, I'm using Sculpey here. So when you push it in, they'll stay in there. I like doing that because once you have a round shape, it's fantastic. It is the eye. Now, that could be a big marble, small marble, a bead. You could use a bead and have the hole through the bead, and it could be the pupil, so it would give an element of, a bit of life in the character. So what I like to do is, now those are really bug eyes that are there, but what I like to do is just start off with the eye, fill out the eye, those colourly things that are in marbles, don't really worry about that. You're not gonna, with this I'm gonna make it so heavily lidded that you won't even see it. So I'm not really overly concerned about that, but you could have a bit of fun with the size of eye. Now, obviously with that eye, it's a little bit caricatured, but if your eye or the marble, whatever you're picking, is too big, or you feel it's too big, all you have to do is put more clay on top, so the circumference of the eye that we see is a little bit less. So what I like to start with doing sculpting is balls and sausages. So literally that's just a sausage, Put it around the eye, and what I like to do is establish the eye sockets. Now you saw me earlier with the tin foils. I was making a form, and I was trying to get form, not detail, and I was trying to get it symmetrical. You could see that I was pushing in the eyeballs, trying to make sure that they're level, and not just on this plane, but when you're looking down, that they're not, one's not stepped out beyond the other. These details, you can see them now, but you'll absolutely be able to see them at the end. And if it's wrong, it's very annoying. It's very annoying. So all I start doing is building up around the socket. And the stuff I'm using is Sculpey, so I could put the Sculpey in the oven to make it go hard. Sculpey cracks. It does crack, and not unlike every other medium out there. Plasticine will crack. But to stop it from cracking, what you would do is you just roll it in your hand, just make in balls. So you could just heat it up that little bit, and it will stop cracking. So what I like to do straight away is with the just try and create that eye socket around that. I put an eyelid on it, and the eyelid, you can see straight away that there is an expression. So there's a sad expression, and I like doing that straight away, so that it's just immediately it gives you a character, and it's sad, neutral, angry, question, so you can play with that and just see what emotions you can get into your sculpt. And that would be lovely if you could try and do that. Again, lads, maybe some of you have done this is the first time that you're doing it. Don't be off put by that. Have a go. Play with this, but it is useful if you're going off reference, so you have something to go by. What you're seeing me do now is what I like to try and do is, I'm not ambidextrous or anything like that. I am right-handed, but I've trained myself in sculpting to try and use both hands. So what I will try and do is I will put, when I'm putting something on the right hand side, I will put it on the left hand side. It's just so you're building it up equal. If you don't do that, and I do advise that you do that. If you don't do that, what's going to happen is you build up on the side that you favour. Now I know that I do this. I favour my right hand side, and I will start sculpting on the right hand side. So what I suggest is try as much as possible to be equal with it and build it up on both sides at the same time. So try and be equal with your clay. All I am doing now is I have established a form that I'm happy with. With this, it's going to be, for me, I'd like a really old, leathery, ancient character. And maybe somebody has got their, big fat broken nose. What's important, you can see that big bridge there. But what is important, that I've decided that at the beginning. If you feel that I'm just going to sculpt and see what happens, you can do that. But it always, in my head, it's always better to have some element of reference that you're working off. So again, now you can see with this, I'm not actually putting a hell of a lot of clay on. The majority of the bulk of the form of the sculpt is literally tinfoil, and I build up those details as I go. Now, people out there might be going, I have no sculpting tools. So what I was looking around the house, and you'll see me use some sculpting tools in that. You're more than welcome to use whatever sculpting tools you want. But what I found was you can't get your fingers are the best sculpting tools that you could get. But what I have in my hand here is a cuticle stick, and for pushing cuticles up. That there could be a cocktail stick. That there could be a skewer. And what I find very handy is this end is flat but is sharp. This end is just a point. So this will give me certain detail, and this will give me certain detail. You'll see that at the end how much detail I actually do get into it. Now, how much detail you get into it, well, put as much detail as you can get into it. There's certain things with sculpts that I love to establish at the beginning. Eyes, eyelids, and then what I love is to try and get that bone. there. You can see me trying to get that bone. I've already put the, well, I haven't put lips on, but I've put the front of the mouth on. And then in here will start happening itself, that's sunken in. Now, I might not keep that. But what I do want to do is try and still using reference, working off what a skull actually looks like. And I'm going to shift it and change it afterwards, but I'm going to try and keep that uniform and keep it anatomically sort of right. Now what I want to do with this one is that the lips are here, and I think what I want to do is just push the lips out and have the jaw go up like an old granny jaw going up. And so I'm going to build on top of that, and now I can build on top of that, but I want to be careful of the side profile. Now if you look at the side profile, and we all have them, so that you should be able to look at yourself. So if you haven't got a mirror, take a photograph, get somebody to take a photograph of you, and take a side view, take a front view. I do this all the time, just for reference. And look at the jaw. You can see that on the tinfoil on the bottom right hand side. On the left hand side there is a jaw there. I've put a jaw in. You can see where the ear falls. And look at my glasses. The top of the ear, you can see where it falls in here. So these are all indicators of anatomy reference and where you should place things. Now when we get into the creature element of stuff, that sort of changes, and if like if you're going down that route, I would just be careful that you don't go too far, that it just goes into something that is not recognizable as anything at all. Now, what I also like to do is I like to try and get the whole thing covered in Sculpey. Again, like, I don't expect that you'll use a lot of Sculpey in this, but ultimately what I'm always trying to do when building it up is try and keeping the form symmetrical. Keep the like I build on a piece here, build on a piece there. You can see on the right hand side there that I have to put a little bit on the here for the cheekbone. So if you establish that early on, now I know this doesn't look like anything yet, but it does look like there is a person in there. It does look like there's a character in there. So I'm going to build it up bit by bit by bit by bit. And as I said at the beginning, if you want, you can use reference. You could literally use the reference that I've given you for that sculpt the skull. A skull is quite hard to do, so it's quite deceptive. Whereas it's like a skull, that skull, if it doesn't look like a skull, we know it because we are all familiar with what a skull looks like. So if you want to be challenged, have a go at that. But what I do suggest is play around. I'm literally just going to what I'm doing here is just literally playing with the clay. Now you might find, this is why I like tinfoil as well, you might find that when you start getting into the clay and you start getting into the character as well, maybe the jaw or maybe the eye, the lips, and maybe the eye, some part of the anatomy, especially here, like these parts here are creating the jaw, and where the ears are placed. Sometimes the tinfoil is actually in the way. And so squish it in, and you can see there where I'd like to put the ear, but maybe the jaw is too far back. Then it looks very far back, but that's easily rectified. Reference. So I'm going to try and get that jaw in there instead of the tinfoil jaw, and I can push that in and just get rid of it. So that's why I like using tinfoil. If it's a solid mass of clay, whether that be plasticine, Fimo, mola, dough, wet clay, it doesn't really matter what it is. Obviously if it's a solid clay, you can push, you can take away, but what I like to do at this stage with the tinfoil, and I do that a lot, even what you see behind me with Beckett, inside the hem is tinfoil. The whole lot of them is tinfoil. Now, what happens when we get to a certain stage and you're going, oh, it'd be lovely if we could have this on or that on. I'm putting hair on it, that, or maybe bulking the head out back forward. I actually decided not to put hair in the end. What I wanted is this big head coming back, and that worked out really well. But that tinfoil kept coming off. So little trick, just a bit of a cocktail stick, cut it, just a little bit, and push it into the tin foil, and you saw me there pushing it down onto the table. Just be careful of your hands, but it will hurt. That's why I pushed it into the table, and it'll hold it all together. Again, I'm going to put that in the oven. It'll be 150 degrees. Now, this is me going lightning speed, lads, so bear with me. I've pushed it a hell of a lot further on this, and I have been doing this. You could see me watching TV and stuff like that, so I find it really relaxing to do. So I hope you've enjoyed and will enjoy doing this, and look over it again, and hopefully I will see you in September on the Design for Film program in IADT. Thank you very much for coming.